Hello, hi, a very happy good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining my session today. So this is Krishnaveni and we've been talking about the story of life on earth, and that's biology. So welcome for all those who are new to my session. So Monday, Wednesday and Friday I teach for class 12, and for the remaining 3 days, that is Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, I teach for class 11. Alright, so today being Tuesday, so we'll talk about a class 11 topic. Okay, so we are going to talk about animal tissue. So this is nothing but the structural organization in animals. Yes, so there's someone new to our session. Hello, yes, good afternoon. My name is Vedanti. So hello Vedanti. So thank you so much for joining my session. Hi Antonia B. Yes, good afternoon. So you're on time today. Okay, so you have decided to attend my lecture every day. Is that so? Yes, you like attending my lecture. So thank you for joining my lecture every day. So that's a lot of pleasure. Okay, so one more announcement. So tomorrow we'll have a mentee. So we'll have a mentee in anatomy of flowering plants because we are done with that chapter, right? Yes. So anatomy of flowering plants. So we'll have a mentee tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. So please prepare. So we are going to play for 15 questions as usual, 20 seconds each. Okay. Yes. Fine. So quickly share the session with your friends. Ask your friends to join. Junior, senior, it does not matter. We're going to talk about one interesting topic, animal tissues. So when you read animal tissues, it forms the base for your human physiology. So you will know how the organs are lined, how they are distributed, how they're uniquely architectured. That's what we're going to see in animal tissues. Are you all ready? Yes. I forgot to share the link earlier today in Telegram. So I guess people would have forgotten that my lecture is there. So please do press the thumb button, the bell button there, so that you get the notification already. Thank you so much, Anthony Abi. Okay, fine. Yes, I will let you know about the live session. So we were talking about the live session, right? So instead of premiere, I will do a live session. Yes, I will tell you when I'm going to do it. But as of now, tomorrow you have a quiz, okay? No, we're not going to talk about frog and earthworm. We're only going to talk about your cockroach. Yes, so after your animal tissue is done. So in animal tissue, we'll be talking about your epithelial tissue, connective tissue, neural tissue. Okay, so we'll talk about all this, and finally we'll talk about your cockroach. We will not talk about your frog or your earthworm here. All right, yes. So shall we go into animal tissues? So if you ask me, ma'am, what is the weightage of this chapter? It is just 2%. So I have divided your structural organization in animals into two halves. The first half is your animal tissue. The second half is your lower animals. So in animal tissue, we'll be talking about the organization of tissue alone. So in your lower animals, we'll talk about cockroach. All right. Yes. So is this pattern okay? So we'll go as slowly, but provided you understand. Yeah, so this chapter is a bit tricky because you have to remember, for example, if you have two types of epithelial tissues, example simple and compound, you will understand as we study. So the examples are what is very tricky and confusing. So you have to pay some attention to where actually you have to focus to remember the examples. Okay, so we'll talk about this. So it's a beautiful lecture, provided if you don't find it boring, it's a very beautiful one. So you will know how beautifully, so depending upon the type and the function, the structure of the organ, how beautifully they are being covered up by the tissue. Okay, so each tissue is very unique here. So let's talk about it. Okay, so here we go forward to talk about your animal tissue. Yes. So basically this chapter is very small because we are divided into two, animal tissue and lower animals. So first we'll talk about your animal tissue, then we'll talk about your organ and your organ system. All right. So it is just the two things here. Okay. So why should we talk about the animal tissue? So just like every story needs an introduction, every hero in a movie needs an introduction. So why are we here going to talk about an animal tissue? So what is the flashback story that you should know? So why should the tissue be organized in such a way that our body functions efficiently? So what is the reason? So one reason is that we have a large variety of organisms. So we have been talking about the diversity of living organisms, right? That is unit 1 in your class 11 topic. So what were we talking about? So many living things are present in the world, starting from microorganisms, plants, animals, etc. So you have a diversity, you have an array of diversity of animals that are present, an array of diversity of living organisms that are present in your globe. So these organisms can be either unicellular or multicellular, it does not matter, but they are present, right? So in case of your unicellular organism, so all the functions, even in unicellular organisms, you have functions like digestion. It's not that your sponge, being a unicellular one, it does not digest, it does not eat. Of course, even a unicellular organism like bacteria, it breathes, it digests, it has its own method of reproduction, right? So in case of a unicellular organism, so all functions like digestion, respiration, reproduction are done by a single cell, because whatever is there is only a single cell. Only that can perform all the functions, right? Yes, Harini, good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining my session. So it's great to have you here. Fine, but how about in case of a multicellular organism? So we are multicellular organism. Yes, ma'am, good afternoon. So thank you for joining my session. So in a multicellular organism, so we also have your multicellular organism, and who performs our functions? Of course, we also digest food, we also breathe, we also reproduce. Yes, so we also have the same set of basic functions, right? So who is helping us with the function? Yes, Balaji. So hello, good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining my session. So quickly like, share and subscribe. Okay. So in a multicellular organism, the basic functions are performed by different groups of cells in a well-organized manner. So that is the difference between a unicellular organism and a multicellular organism. Of course, a multicellular organism is more complex. Okay. For example, Hydra is a multicellular organism. Where did we study Hydra, if you remember? So we spoke about your Hydra when we were talking about your animal kingdom, specifically about your phylum, Coelenterata. Yes. So when I say animal kingdom, of course, they are multicellular organisms, right? So your Hydra comes under your Coelenterata. Of course, it is a multicellular organism. So it is made up of different types of cells. So we are made up of different types of organs, right? Who makes up the organs? So we are made up of cells. Cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs, and a group of organs make up an organ system, right? Yes. So even a Hydra, even a very basic lower animal is made up of, lower phyla like Hydra is made up of many different types of cells than imagine. So they are made up of different types of cells. Even if you have 10 different types, each type will have hundreds, thousands of cells within it. So imagine then how vast the development of cells is, right? Now take the example of us, the human body. It is composed of billions of cells and it performs various functions, right? But now the question worth asking is, how do these cells work together in the body? Yes, I agree, we are made up of so many cells, so I usually keep repeating. So on an average, we have 10 power 14 cells. But how does each of the cells coordinate with each other? How is there an understanding between each cell? So in the contemporary world, understanding is a big gap, right? So we have communication barrier, we have a lot of misunderstandings. In such a contemporary world, how do you think all the 10 power 14 cells on average in a human body tries to coordinate with each other? How do they work together in a body? So imagine one day your respiratory system says, today I'm not going to breathe, I'm going to take rest. So what will be the condition of your body? Have you ever thought of it? One day if your body says, no, I'm not going to digest today, what will happen? Will you be able to eat 4 meals a day, 3 meals a day? Not possible. If your heart says, no, I want to have some rest, let me relax myself, I'm not going to pump blood today. If your lung says, I'm not going to exchange gas, that will be an entire chaos. So what if the digestive system says, no, today for a change, I will do the function of the heart. So let me see how it works. Let me see if I like. So even I need a change. So what if your cell says like that? So what will we end up? So the circulatory system says, no, I will do only my function. You don't come into my function. If there's a chaos, if there's a fight, so you will end up having a lot of problems, right? But how do they work together? How are they very understanding to each other? How are they very cooperative to each other? So what is the underlying trick behind that? Yes, of course, we have billions of cells, okay? So we have different types and each type is made up of a billion types of cells, right? Okay. So I want to tell you something new. It's come in the news yesterday. There's something new, okay, that I want to share with you. When I was just scrolling my mail, I found it very interesting. So it says your reindeer lichens are having more sex than expected. So what is more interesting is that, so we have read about lichens, right? So lichens is a symbiotic association between your fungi and your algae, right? So that is your lichen. So what is this reindeer lichen? So there are lichens present in the regions where your reindeers are present, okay? Basically in the snowy region. So what happens, why are they called as reindeer lichens, is that because they are food for your reindeers. The majority of them, they make up the food for your reindeer. So that is why it is called as reindeer lichen. So what is more interesting about this is that it is just an ecological research. So we have read about lichens, and so I wanted to talk to you about this. So this is how it is. This entire white floor is filled with your reindeer lichens. So they are basically mosses, okay, very, very tiny mosses. But since they are lichens, they have both the fungal and the algal component. So your lichens can reproduce both sexually and asexually. So asexually how? A particular part of this, if you can see, it comes out, the prothallus comes out and it starts growing into a new half. So that is the clone, they reproduce asexually. But sexually what happens? From the fungus, a root-like structure enters into the neighboring fungus and they transfer the genetic material. So that is how they sexually reproduce. So for so long, it was found that your reindeer lichens were reproducing asexually. But now they have changed the pattern. They reproduce sexually than asexually. So what is the advantage of having sexual reproduction is that they can get more number of hybrids and the ability to eliminate genes is higher. Okay, so this is one new phenomena that your researchers have come up with. They having more sex than unexpected. So one more thing, why are lichens important? Lichens are good indicators of pollution, right? They also tell you whether you have forest fires nearby, is your forest area affected, what is the distribution of trees, how healthy your vegetation is, all that. So here you see how evolution is happening. So they can reproduce asexually and sexually. When the environment is favorable, they reproduce asexually. Okay. When it is unfavorable, at rare conditions, they go for sexual reproduction. But now, in the recent time, it has found that they reproduce only sexually to obtain a very strong hybrid and to survive. So this is also the rate of evolution that you have to see, how the pattern is changing. So we have your climatic conditions changing, we have your vegetative conditions changing. In a way, even the smallest of smallest organisms like your lichens also change their pattern of life cycle. So see how each and every point your ecosystem is being affected. Yes, everything is interlinked. So genetic analysis shows that the reindeer lichens reproduce sexually as opposed to asexually more often than researchers thought. So this was a stunning thing because they are changing their pattern with no significant external factors affecting them. Meaning the condition is the same. They can reproduce both sexually and asexually, but it is that your reindeer lichens are preferring to reproduce sexually. So this is also a way of evolution. So how do they find the DNA analysis? So since it is a dual component, you have your algae and the fungal component. So they chose to study more about the fungal component here than about the algae component. So it's a very interesting article. They have mentioned in detail about the patterns of recycle, how they reproduce asexually and sexually in detail, and what are the advantages of having a reindeer lichens. It was a very interesting article. So if you're really interested, so please Google reindeer lichens and then read about the recent article. Okay, so this I specifically got this article to show you how evolution is happening at a very small rate, which is very unexpected. So at a very small level, right? So bacteria is the least level, a little above, lichens a little above, because it has your fungi as well as your algae. So here also they are changing their patterns. So what is affecting them, that we do not know. All right. So if you're really interested, just go through this article. Okay. So yes, good afternoon, Divya. Hello, Vishal. Yes, good afternoon. So today no school, you came for my class? Yes. Okay. So we are still in the flashback story of why we are studying animal tissues. So once again, multicellular animals form a group of cells with intercellular substances. They perform a specific function, and that is called as a tissue. So like we were talking about unicellular and multicellular organisms. So unicellular organism is where a single cell performs all the basic functions of life. And in multicellular organism, you have different types of cells. Each one of them coordinates to make the function useful. Okay. Yes. So multicellular animals, they form a similar group of cells. Plus they have intercellular substances, the substance present between the cells. Intercellular is the space between the cell. Okay. They perform a specific function called as a tissue. So once again, tissue is a group of cells. So the cells, these group of similar cells plus the secretion between them, or the secretion in that particular area is together known as a tissue, and they perform a common function. For example, when I say they are hepatic tissues, they are tissues of the liver. So they are made up of hepatic cells, yes, and they have your liver secretions. So Vishal says, I went to school and came back just now. All right, so thank you so much for joining my class immediately right after school. So I'm very grateful. So we are talking about your animal tissue today. So that is nothing but your structural organization in animals. So I've divided the chapter into two halves. The first half is your animal tissue. The next one is your lower animals. So in animal tissue, we'll talk about the 4 types of tissue: connective, neural, epithelial, and connective. And the next half, in the lower animals, we'll talk about your cockroach. All right, Vishal? Okay. So all complex animals, we consist of 4 basic types of tissue. So we also come under the term complex animals. All right. So tissue in specific has tissues have in specific a proportion and pattern that form an organ like your stomach, lung, heart, and kidney. So for example, the tissues in your stomach is different, the tissues in your lung is different, the tissues in your heart and your kidneys are different. All right. So when 2 or more organs perform or combine together to perform a similar function, it can be either by physical or chemical interaction, they form an organ system. Example, your digestive system, respiratory system. Mind you, stomach is a different organ, intestine is a different organ. Okay? Yes? So when 2 or more organs come together to perform a similar function, by the means of interaction, it can be either physical interaction or chemical interaction. Okay, for example, food from one region comes to the other region, or the chemicals, meaning hormones are triggering each one of the organ. So that can also make up your organ system. So you have your digestive system, you have your respiratory system. So Shiva Ram says the video is lagging. Yes, I can understand. So that's the problem with the YouTube. So I don't know how to get it done. Okay. Yes, Vedanti, hello. So you are way before my class started. So hello, yes, welcome. So thank you for joining my session. So it's great to have you here. So you are new to my session, right? Yes, so you're preparing for NEET. Very determined to clear NEET. Yes, so since you're new, so I teach the entire biology. So Monday, Wednesday and Friday, that is MWF, I teach for class 12. And Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I teach for, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, I teach for class 11. All right. Hello, Sweta. Hi. So good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining my session. Yes, I know the video is lagging. So it's completely stopped. The video has completely stopped. Yes, you're a new student. Yes, I know. So yes, welcome, welcome. Okay, so here we go forward. So that is what is called as, yes, don't worry. So now I guess it's fine. So when 2 or more organs combine to form a common function by means of physical or chemical interaction, it is called as an organ system, like for example, your digestive system or your respiratory system. All right. So cell, tissues, organs and organ system, they split up the work. That is called as division of labor. If division of labor does not exist, then there is no point in having or being a multicellular organism. Okay. Yes. Thank you for cooperating. Okay, so till this, is it clear? So we didn't talk much. I was just introducing the topic to you. Okay, so division of labor is what makes the multicellular organisms very, very efficient. Okay, so what helps in the division of labor? Your cells, tissues, organs, and organ system. So animal tissue, the structure of the cell varies according to their function. So for example, the function that it is going to perform, accordingly the structure is designed. So how is a neuron designed? So do you all know the structure of a neuron, right? I know I haven't taught you neural control and coordination, but we have the slightest idea as to how a neuron is. Yes, so this is your axon, this is your dendrite, cell body and your axon, and this is how your neuron is. So depending on the function of your cell, the structure is created. The function of your neuron is to transmit impulse, and hence it is made up of such a structure. Okay, my video is lagging once again. I guess now it's clear here. So can you refresh the page once again? Can you refresh your page once again? All right, thank you, Anthony Abhi. Okay, the tissues are very different. So we have different types of tissue, and the different types of tissue, how are they classified and what basis? So here is the major classification of the tissue. So number 1, it is classified as epithelial tissue. Next, connective tissue. Third, it is your muscular tissue. And fourth one is your neural tissue. Yes, Vedanti, hello. So these are the 4 major classification of tissues. So epithelial, connective, then we have your muscular, and then we have your neural. So here in this chapter, that is animal tissue, we are going to talk about each of them in details. That is what we are going to do, and your chapter ends, we are done with talking by all your 4 tissues. Okay, so first we will talk about the classification. Okay, so these are the 4 types of tissue. So there I showed you in terms of a flow chart, and here I am showing you in terms of a picture. So this is your connective tissue, that is your epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, nervous tissue. I don't think the picture is very clear, so don't worry, when you're talking about the individual tissue, I have enough pictures to show you. So going forward, first we'll start with your epithelial tissue. So once again, what are the 4 types of animal tissues? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular, and your neural, right? So first we are going to talk about your epithelial tissue. So pay attention because it is a huge classification. Fine. So it is a tissue, right? So cells make up a tissue. The cells of this tissue are called as epithelium or epithelia. Fine. The tissue has a free surface. It can either face the body fluid or outside the environment. So what is the tissue? It's a group of cells, right? For example, I have a group of cells here. Now, can this make up a tissue? Yes, of course it can make up a tissue. So assume this is an epithelial tissue. So understand, always the cells will not be hanging in mid-hair. It has to be attached to something. Okay. So always your cells are attached to what is known as a basement membrane. Fine. So the other side, it is a free surface, right? Your tissue has a free surface because this side it is free. So this side, it can either face the outside environment or it can face the body fluid. For example, if it is lining the blood vessel, so this is your basement membrane. So this can either face the blood flowing or it can face the opposite side, that is the outside environment. So that is the meaning for this line. Alright, it provides the covering or lining for some part of the body. So it is the outermost and it forms a cushion for some things. Okay. It forms the outer lining for some organs. So cells are compactly packed with little intercellular matrix. So when I say intercellular, between the cells. So between the cells, there is less space. Okay. So 2 types of epithelial tissues are present. So your epithelial tissue is broadly divided into your simple epithelium and your compound epithelium. Alright. So we are going to talk about the various types of epithelium. So here I have a flow chart. Types of epithelium. So please pay attention to this flow chart. So we are talking about the epithelial tissues. So this is the first type of the 4 animal tissues that is present. So this is epithelial tissue. So epithelial tissue is broadly divided into simple epithelium and the other one is compound epithelium, right? On what basis they are divided into simple and compound? Or based on the number of layer of cells. So you should know on what basis they are being divided. That is very, very important. So if you remember on what basis they are being divided, then it is easy for you to remember. Otherwise, if you blindly or monotonously look into this flow chart, it is tough. So once again, pay attention. So we are talking about the classification of your epithelial tissues. Mind you, there are hell a lot of epithelial lining present, both everything each in further classification. So here we are just looking at the outer view. Okay, I know it is a bit confusing, but pay attention to what I'm saying. Okay, so epithelial tissue is broadly divided into simple and compound. On what basis? Based on the number of layer of cells. Fine. So first, when I say simple, it is based on, simple, it means it has only one layer of epithelial tissues. So this is classified based on the number of layers of cells. So this is made up of a single layer. So compound, it is made up of many layers. So that is the primary difference between a simple epithelium and a compound epithelium. Alright, yes. Now, talking only about your simple epithelium is further divided. On what basis? Based on your cell shape. Based on the shape of your cell, how is your simple epithelium divided? Remember, all this classification is still a simple epithelium, so it has only a single layer of epithelial cells. So simple means a single layer. A single layer can be of different shape. It can be of squamous shape. For example, your tile shape. Your tile is a single layer, right? Yes. So that is your squamous shape. It can be cubical shape. Yes, in the shape of your cube. Like this. It can be columnar. It can be like this. And it can be pseudo-stratified. So pseudo is false. Stratified means layers. So this gives you an appearance of 2-layered epithelial cells, but it is actually a single layer, but it appears to be like 2 layers. That is why it is called a pseudo-stratified. Alright, so once again, we are talking about the classification of your epithelial tissues. So it is divided into simple and compound. Alright, so the simple one is further classified based on the shape of your cell. Alright, so it is classified as squamous, cubical, columnar and pseudo-stratified. So squamous is tile shaped. So remember, so all these are single layered, only the shape differs. So this is cubical, so this has a cube shaped one, and columnar, so this is column shaped. Pseudo stratified, so pseudo is false or it is trying to mimic. Stratified means layer. It appears to have two layers, but it is basically a single layer. That is why it's coming under simple epithelium. But the appearance is such that it is having so many layers, but it is actually a simple epithelial tissue. Alright, so this is the classification of your simple epithelium. Now moving on to your compound epithelium, which is having more than one layer of your epithelial cells. So this is further classified into two types based on the stretching ability. For example, some tissues you can stretch, right? So what are the tissues that you can stretch? For example, your urinary bladders can contract and relax. There has to be some tissue there. So based on the stretching ability, your compound epithelium is divided into stratified and transitional. Based on the stretching ability, your compound epithelium is divided into stratified and transitional. So transitional is a stretchable tissue. Okay, stratified means layers and it cannot be stretched. So based on the stretching ability, the one that can stretch is your transitional compound epithelium. The one that cannot stretch is your stratified epithelium. So it is simply made up of layers. So it is simply made up of many layers. That's why it is under compound epithelium. So your stratified can further be divided into two types based on the shape. So squamous and cubical talks about the shape. So your stratified compound epithelium is further classified based on the shape. Stratified squamous or stratified cuboidal. Alright, your stratified squamous is further divided into two types based on the presence of your keratin protein. If keratin protein is present, it is called as keratinized, and if the keratin protein is absent, it is called as non-keratinized. Alright, so now did you understand the classification of your epithelial tissues? Any doubt? So shall I explain once again? What photosynthesis in plants? You want me to teach that chapter? So after this chapter, shall I move into human physiology? Because we have been talking about plants again and again. So we are done with morphology, anatomy. So I thought after this chapter, I'll start with human physiology. Okay, so that is an interesting chapter, right? So we'll start an interesting chapter so that you will also not feel bored. So continuously talking about plants, it's quite saturating, right? You want me to start with plant physiology? First, we'll finish off human, okay? Yes, after this, I will start with human physiology. Maybe in between, I'll teach one chapter in plant and one chapter in human so that to make the lecture interesting. Okay, let's see. All right. Okay. So once again, for the one last time, I'll repeat the classification of the epithelial tissues. So epithelial tissue is divided into simple and compound. Okay. So based on the number of layers, it is divided into simple and compound. Simple means it has a single layer. Compound means it has many layers. All right. So simple, based on the shape, it is further classified into four types: squamous, cubical, columnar and pseudo-stratified. Okay, so squamous is the tile shape, cubical is cuboidal shape, columnar is elongated cells, and pseudo-stratified is false layers. It is just giving a false appearance. So your compound epithelium, which is further classified based on the stretching ability, it is classified as stratified and transitional. So transitional is stretchable and stratified is not stretchable. It is made up of many layers of epithelium. So based on the shape, it's further classified into squamous and cuboidal. So squamous is further classified based on the presence of a keratin protein into keratinized or non-keratinized. All right? Yes. So we'll start off with human physiology next because that has maximum weightage. So let's see how it goes. So first let's finish cockroach and this. Then we'll go into human physiology because I know you have been waiting for human physiology for a long time. So let's do some interesting chapters in human physiology. Then we'll come back to plant again. All right. Okay. So talking about the simple epithelium in detail. So it's composed of a single layer of cells. So what is the main function? So please pay attention to the function. It forms the lining for body cavities. Cavities means spaces that enclose the organs. So that is called as cavities, ducts and tubes. Okay. lining for body cavities, ducts and tubes. So that is the role of your epithelial tissue. So this is your simple epithelial tissue. It is made up of a single layer, yes, and it has similar types of cells. And it is attached to what is called as a basement membrane on one side. On the other side, it is free, right? This is the free surface. This is the one that is attached to your basement membrane. All right. So going forward, talking about the types of simple epithelium. On the basis of structural modifications of cells, your simple epithelium is further divided into squamous, cuboidal, columnar, and of course pseudostratified. We'll talk about pseudostratified after we are done with columnar. Okay. So your simple squamous is a tile-like. It is a very thin one made up of all types of cells. Okay. Then cuboidal. So this has irregular corners. Yes. So this is simple cuboidal. It is made up of a cuboidal shape. And this is simple columnar. So see, it has columnar cells. Right. Okay. So this is the differentiation between the three major types. Yes, of course, pseudostratified is also there. So we'll also talk about pseudostratified. So remember these three things. So pseudostratified is not mentioned in your NCERT. So these three are mentioned in your NCERT, and hence I have combined these three. Okay. So point number 1, under your squamous epithelium, it is made up of a single layer of flat-ended cells. Yes, it is a flat layer. We saw in the previous picture, it is a flat layer with irregular boundaries. Yes, the boundaries were irregular. They were not defined. So where are they found? So when it is being highlighted in brown color, so this entire row, okay. So this is the location of that particular type of tissue, and you have to pay attention to this. This is what is very, very important. So where is your squamous epithelium found? It is found in the walls of blood vessels and air sacs of the lungs. Walls of the blood vessels and air sacs of the lungs. All right. What is the function it performs? It forming a diffusion boundary. Of course, when it is present in the air sac, yes, it has to diffuse the gases. So it is the process of simple diffusion. Your oxygen and your carbon dioxide gets exchanged in your alveolar surface and in your blood vessels, right? Yes, so you have two exchange sites happening. So that is the function of your squamous epithelium. So talking about your cuboidal epithelium, it is again composed of a single layer of cells because everything comes under your simple epithelium. Okay, but it has cube-like cells. This has flat-ended cells. All right. So where it is present? In the ducts of glands. Okay. So what are ducts? The passage through which the secretions of the gland passes through, that is called as a duct. Okay. So here you have the tubular part of, so one location where it is found is tubular part of nephron in the kidney. So what is the function? Secretion and absorption. So basically if it lines the ducts, so what it is going to do? It is going to carry your secretions, right? So that is what is the function. So you want me to tell the function? Forming a diffusion boundary. Alright, so we're talking about squamous epithelium. The squamous epithelium is made up of a single layer of flat-ended cells with irregular boundaries. So if you look into the picture here, so this is a flat-ended layer. Yes, the boundaries are irregular. It does not have a definite boundary. Okay, so where it is found? It is found in the walls of your blood vessels and in the air sacs of your lungs, right? So function, forming a diffusion boundary. So what is the diffusion boundary? So when you inhale and exhale, what is happening? When you inhale, you're taking in carbon dioxide rich atmospheric air. When you exhale, you're giving out when you inhale, you're taking in oxygen rich atmospheric air. When you exhale, you're giving out carbon dioxide rich air, right? Yes. So there has to be some region where the exchange of gases takes place. Your body has to give out carbon dioxide and take in oxygen. So that exchange surface is your alveoli, right? So since this lines your alveoli, your lungs contain your alveoli. So they form a diffusion boundary. So that is the function of your squamous epithelium. All right. Yes. So talking about your cuboidal, it is composed of a single layer of tube-like cells. So it is found in the ducts of the glands. So ducts are passages which carry the secretion of the glands. So one area is the tubular part of your nephrons in kidney. Okay. So nephrons, after your glomerular absorption, they carry your filtrate. So there it is being used. So function, secretion and absorption. Of course, if it is lining the ducts of your glands, it is going to carry the secretions of your glands, right? So your function is secretion and absorption. So that is about your cuboidal simple epithelium. Talking about your columnar epithelium, it is composed of a single layer of tall and slender cells. Okay, so it is columnar, right? So it is something like this. Tall and slender cells. The nuclei is present at the base. So it is attached to the basement membrane here, and the nuclei is present at the base instead of the top. Alright, yes. And it has a free surface. So this is the free surface because here it is attached to the basement membrane. So here it forms microvilli like projections. So that is microvilli. So where it is present, of course your microvilli is present in your stomach and your intestine. So that is the location. So that is easy to remember. So what is the function? So what is the role of your microvilli? It enhances the surface area for absorption. So here also the function is absorption and secretion. So are these three types of simple epithelial tissues clear? Squamous, cuboidal and columnar. So you will not forget their location and the function. Is this much clear? So can I proceed forward? No doubts? Shall I proceed forward? Yes? Shall I? Okay, so I am okay. Antonia B, I am going forward. Fine. So one more thing, the epithelium of the proximal convoluted of nephron in the kidney has microvilli. So we spoke about the tubular part of your nephron, right? Yes. So the epithelium of the proximal convoluted tubule of nephron, so that is the PCT, it also has microvilli to some extent, but it does not have the function of exactly like the function of your intestine, but to some extent microvilli have the same function. It also acts as a gut, that's why it comes under your cuboidal epithelium. So remember, found in the ducts of the glands. One example is your tubular part of your nephron. So which part? That is your proximal convoluted tubule. It also has to some extent microvilli on its surface. All right. So going forward, so your columnar and your cuboidal epithelium can have modifications. So what are the modifications it can have? Your columnar and your cuboidal cells, they can have cilia on their free surface. So they can be called as ciliated epithelium. So when they have cilia on their surface, so microvilli is brush border appearance. So that is different from cilia. So when your cuboidal and your columnar epithelial cells have cilia present on the free surface, they are called as ciliated epithelium. Fine. So what is the function of ciliated epithelium? So cilia helps in the movement. Their hair-like structure, when it bends, it allows the movement of particles, right? So they move particles of mucus in specific direction over the epithelial layer. Fine. So location, it is present in the inner surface of hollow organs like your bronchioles and your fallopian tube. So where are bronchioles? Bronchioles are a part of your respiratory passage where it takes the air to your alveoli for exchange. So there your hair has to be cleansed for any foreign particles. So that is why you have ciliated epithelium then. And fallopian tube because it has to move the egg along the passage. So human females or mammalian females have fallopian tube that produces your ova. Okay, sorry, your ovary produces your ova and it is transferred to your fallopian tube and the fertilization happens in your fallopian tube. For implantation to happen, the fertilized egg has to reach the uterus. Okay, so when it has to reach the uterus, it moves with the help of your ciliated epithelium. All right. So something like this. So these are ciliated epithelium. So this is your basement membrane. Yes, on the free surface you have cilia. So this is called a ciliated epithelium. So this is your bronchioles. Okay. This is your respiratory passage. So this is till this it is trachea. This is your primary bronchus. Then the further divisions are your secondary bronchus and further it divides into bronchioles. All right. So here if you see, these are your columnar cells. Okay. So they are attached to the basement membrane. They are ciliated columnar epithelia because on one side they have your cilia. So it helps in the movement. Okay. Yes. So this is from Career Point. Okay. So this is from Career Point Kota. Hello Tarun. It's okay if you're late, but we're talking about animal tissues. See if you understand. Okay, so guys, I guess Sapna Patel, you're new to our session. So please do like, share and subscribe. Tarun, please do like, share and subscribe. All right. So this is your fallopian tube. So you have your ovary here. Yes. So it produces ova and it has to be moved to the fallopian tube. Fertilization happens in your fallopian tube. All right. Yes. Now it has to come here for implantation. So the movement happens with the help of your cilia. All right. Yes. So here you have your ciliated epithelial tissues. Another modification, one modification is when your cuboidal and your columnar cells have cilia, that is called as ciliated epithelium. When another modification, you also have a different modification. Some columnar or cuboidal cells are specialized for secretion and they are called as glandular epithelium. Some types of columnar or cuboidal cells, they have specialized functions for secretion alone. So who does maximum secretion? Glands. So hence they are known as glandular epithelium. Their only role is to secrete some types of chemicals. Alright. So there are two types of glandular epithelium. One is unicellular, the other one is multicellular. Alright. Yes, unicellular means they are isolated glandular cells. Example, your goblet cells of your alimentary canal. So the goblet cells of your alimentary canal, it produces mucus that helps in the lubrication of your food. So next we are going to talk about your digestive system. So we'll understand the role of goblet cells in detail. So as of now, remember, goblet cell is a gland that produces mucus that enables the movement of food, because your food has to move from your stomach to your intestine. So you need mucus, so you need some pathway to push the food down, right? So that is your mucus. So this is an example of your unicellular gland. Next is a multicellular gland. It has a cluster of cells. So example is your salivary gland. Your salivary gland has a cluster of cells, and we have three pairs of salivary gland: parotid gland, submaxillary, submandibular, and your sublingual gland. So these are the three salivary glands, and salivary glands are example of your multicellular glandular ciliated or columnar epithelium, and this is your goblet cells are example of unicellular ciliated or columnar epithelium. Alright. So this is your glandular epithelium. So here they have your columnar cells. Yes, so here you have your goblet cells. Their specialized role is secretion. Yes, glandular epithelium. So can you see you have columnar cells or cuboidal cells arranged here? The main role is secretion. Alright, so these are the two modifications. Now, talking about the types of glands. So since we spoke about your multicellular and your unicellular gland, let's talk about the types of glands. So on the basis of the presence of secretory ducts, so glands should have a duct, right? So when they do not have a duct, they are called as endocrine. When they have a duct, they are called as exocrine. So some glands have ducts. So based on the presence of secretory duct, they are of three types. First is endocrine glands, where your duct is absent. That is why they are called as endocrine or ductless glands. When glands are present, they are called as exocrine. The next one is heterocline, that is a mixocrine gland. So when it is both a endocrine and exocrine, example is your pancreas. So pancreas produces pancreatic juice as well as your pancreatic hormones like your insulin, glucagon, etc. Right? So that is one classification based on the presence or absence of duct. Next is based on the nature of secretion. They can be of three types: eccrine, acrine or merocrine gland. The second one is, so that is the first type. The second one is apocrine and the third one is holocrine. This is based on the nature of secretion. So what type of secretion do they have? So number one, eccrine, acrine or merocrine gland is when your secretory cells substances by simple diffusion. So here you have your cells which secrete substances by the process of simple diffusion, and here your cytoplasm is not destroyed in your secretion. Example is your maximum sweat glands of humans, paws of rabbit and the goblet cells which produces mucus. They are all examples of your eccrine, acrine or merocrine gland where the cell is not disturbed at the time of secretion. Alright, the cytoplasm is undisturbed here. The second type is called as apocrine gland, okay, where the secretory products are collected in the apical portion of the secretory cell, which means on the top portion of the secretory cell. So the apical portion is shed along with the secretory matter. So here the secretory products get collected in the apical portion. Along with the secretion, the apical cells also shed. Such a kind of gland is called as apocrine gland. So they regain the lost cytoplasm because the apical portion is shed, okay, but they regain the lost cytoplasm. Example is your mammary glands and sweat glands of your armpit and your lips. So in rabbit, sweat glands are found around lips and skin around the lips. The third type is your holocrine, okay, holo is whole. Production of secretion happens with the whole cell being damaged. So example is your sebaceous gland and your Zeiss gland. So Zeiss gland is present in your eye. Alright. So these are the three glands. So merocrine, eccrine, apocrine is when the cell is unharmed, the cytoplasm is not disturbed here. Okay. So apocrine, when the apical portion, so this is the apical portion of the cell. Okay. So apical portion has the secretion. So along with the secretion, the apical portion is also pinched out. Okay. Holocrine is when the entire cell is disrupted along with the secretion. So this is called as holocrine. Example is your sweat gland. Alright, so this is your mammary gland. Fine. Yes, hello Aman. So thank you so much for joining my session. So thank you. Though you are at the time when I'm going to say bye, but still thank you so much for joining my session. So that's great. Alright, till this it's clear. Yes. So you understood the different types of glands. So first was based on the presence or absence of duct. The second was based on the presence or absence of the nature of secretion. The third one is on the basis of secretory matter. So you have serous gland. Here the secretion is a watery fluid. Example is your sweat gland. Then your mucus gland, where your secretion is mucus. Example is your goblet cells. Then mixed gland, where your secretion is both water and mucus. Pancreas and gastric glands are the example. Okay. Yes, understood. So you're living in a different and a parallel world, but it's still okay. Still you understood that my class is going on in this world and you came. Okay, so thank you so much, Aman. So Aman, there is a quiz tomorrow at 6:30 and the topic is anatomy of flowering plants. All right, yes. So this is the based on the nature of secretory matter, whether it's water or mucus. So based on that, you have three types of classification. All right, is this clear? Yes. So I will stop right here. I will continue on Thursday's class. So tomorrow we are talking about ecology. So we have been talking about organism and population in class 12. So tomorrow we'll continue with that lecture and we'll continue with this on Thursday. Okay, so very soon I'll start with your human physiology. All right, yes. So I will try to finish this chapter by Saturday. So from Monday we can start off with your cockroach. So cockroach will just take one lecture. So after that we'll move on into your human physiology. Yes. So please do get ready for the quiz, Menti quiz tomorrow. So we are going to talk about the anatomy of flowering plants. All right. Yes. So any other doubt you have, you understood whatever I spoke. If you understood whatever I spoke till now, please do like, share and subscribe. Also do let me know what type of lectures you need. Okay. Yes. So please do lend your support. So please do share the link, like the channel, subscribe. Okay. So thank you so much. So have a great evening. So I will meet you tomorrow at 3 p.m. first with ecology and then at 6:30 with the Menti. So thank you for being a wonderful audience and making my day grateful. So this is me signing off. So take care and bye-bye.